Rachel, the answer to your question as to who owns the IP for your Resolve Pop song is probably nobody. There's no bill for that. Assalamu alaikum, good morning, good afternoon, your excellencies, your honors, justices, ladies and gentlemen, all curious souls. Linda highlighted the fact that we're here focused on assets, investment, and asset management. We've seen eye-popping investments and heard hyperbolic claims about the potentials and dangers of artificial intelligence. I'm going to talk about a slice of that world, the role of law and courts in the development and promulgation of this promising technology. And I hope you enjoy the topic of the talk. I'm going to focus on copyright regulation and AI specifically, global being the theme of Abu Dhabi Financial Week, and maybe Abu Dhabi in general, the local and the global. And if you don't enjoy the talk, it's 1 a.m. back home in New York City. The advent of generative artificial intelligence has ignited a global transformation, one that promises both unprecedented opportunities and profound challenges. Nations such as the United States, China, members of the EU, and here in the UAE are each racing to advance and regulate this technology, shaping the future of innovation and governance. Yet at the heart of this debate lies an intricate and urgent question. How do we reconcile existing rights such as copyright law with the realities of AI development, especially when it comes to training these powerful technologies? I assume most people in the room are familiar with how AI models are trained. If not, here's a quick overview. AI models, based on their architecture, generally speaking, become more proficient based on the volume of data on which they're trained. Similar to how children learn based on the more experiences they're exposed to, AI models are able to predict or infer, as we use in the parlance, what we ask of them better when they're exposed to more data. But where does this data come from? The answer is books, the internet, basically all of the written artifacts of humanity. So since we're talking about training on a huge corpus of data, as much as data in these very large language models can acquire, we have to think about the issue and use of copyrighted materials for AI training. This practice, which lies at the foundation of generative AI, has sparked a spectrum of responses worldwide, and frankly has taken courts and legal practitioners relatively by surprise. If we're doing a survey of the world, it falls into three categories. There are jurisdictions with fair use provisions, like the United States, where I practice, where courts often allow copying for purposes that don't communicate the original expression to the new audience. There are jurisdictions with express exceptions for text and data mining, like Japan and the EU, which expressly carve out rights for AI training under very specific circumstances. Then there are countries with aspirations for AI dominance, but have different and older copyright frameworks, such as China, including the UAE as well, which are yet to fully address those challenges in their laws. I want to point out that in the UAE, Article 22 of the Law on Copyright and Neighboring Rights does allow for the reproduction of a single copy of a work for purely personal use and for nonprofit and non-professional purposes. Despite these differences in laws, we're seeing an emergence of what can be called a global equilibrium, a mores around recognizing that AI training and similar computational analysis are socially valuable and don't inherently harm the rights of copyright holders. Taking a step back and at a higher level, at its core, copyright was designed in response to the printing press, emphasizing the reproduction of works as a central concern. But as generative AI flips this paradigm, AI systems are relying on non-expressive uses of copyrighted works, which are basically acts of copying that no human will ever see or read in order to teach a machine patterns, abstractions, and relationships. Take the training of large language models like GPTs. These systems ingest huge amounts of data, transforming the text into numerical representations called tokens. And even though this involves copying, it serves an entirely different purpose than what we're used to. It's taking uncopyrightable facts and insights rather than just merely reproducing the works on which they trained. This isn't Napster. So this raises a crucial question. Should copyright law permit these uses, particularly when they unlock incredible potential for social progress? Going back again to the goal of copyright, recall that it includes the idea that the author has exclusive rights to reproduce the work, but those rights are not absolute. It can't be. If it was, life would be exceedingly boring and we'd have little to no scientific or artistic progress. Imagine if there was only one impressionist painter, or there was no satire at all. It'd be a very dull world indeed. So at the core of copyright is this idea of protection, but also progress. The idea that the author controls communication of their original expression, but the underlying facts, ideas, abstractions, artistic methods, and yes, even style, can be freely shared and copied. So with that in mind, I want to highlight 3 factors driving this convergence and this global alignment of how countries are thinking about AI. The first, this core idea in copyright of the idea-expression dichotomy. This idea that while expressions are protected, the ideas are not. Second is global AI competition. We've seen the jockeying between nations for AI supremacy, and as nations vie for leadership in AI, they look at the flexibility built into US copyright law, and in particular the fair use doctrine, which I'm litigating in several cases. This has placed a pressure on others to adapt. Countries like China, the UAE, the UK, and others are looking to see what's happening in the US. This is then driving this race to the middle, where other countries are looking for a core of moderation. So even though we have this consensus that's forming around the middle, the emerging consensus is fragile. People are looking to litigation in the United States, debates over licensing deals, and legislation in the EU, such as the EU AI Act, to possibly disrupt this balance. There are questions over whether even the outputs of AI, such as the point Rachel mentioned, right? The outputs, whether they resemble copyrighted works, would that be an infringement? Does it go to the public domain? What does it mean? I think these are all the questions being asked in courts and are yet to be fully litigated. Looking ahead, there are 6 lessons that stand out that I want to leave you with around this global survey. First is that balance is key. Effective and strong copyright regimes have to navigate the fine line between promoting innovation and protecting rights. Second, non-expressive uses also deserve recognition in the law. A certain type of copying that enables AI training without reproducing the underlying creative and expressive elements of the authors should probably be permissible. The third, flexibility fosters leadership. Jurisdictions with adaptable laws, like the United States, are better positioned to lead in AI, and we've seen that reflected in investment. Fourth, global collaboration is essential. AI is inherently international, and harmonizing copyright laws will reduce friction and enhance innovation. 5, watch out for over-regulation. Excessive restrictions on AI training could stifle progress and disadvantage nations in the global race. We've seen that acknowledgement with countries like Japan, as well as the UAE, which are seeking to be leaders in AI. Last, engagement with stakeholders. Policymakers must actively involve copyright holders, AI developers, and the public in shaping the rules of this new era. Ladies and gentlemen, the intersection of copyright and AI is more than a legal challenge. It's a defining moment for innovation, creativity, and global cooperation. And as we navigate these complexities, let us remember that the goal of copyright is not to hinder progress, but instead to enable it. With thoughtful policy and collaboration, we can build a framework that supports the creators of today and the pioneers of tomorrow. Thank you very much.